a light that will shine, shine, shine on your mind, mind, mind. Yeah, so bright, 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 that will shine, shine, shine. Bright, 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 bright on your mind, mind, mind. Yeah, so bright, 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 bright.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey, Michael.
So nice to meet you again.
Yeah, good to hear from you guys.
Absolutely. It's been a little bit. How are you today?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm
Awesome.
good.
Good.
Feel
Yeah.
Hold on.
energies rising.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we'd love to again to introduce Michael Adzema for the listeners who may not have followed the previous show we had, which was really amazing, and I have no doubt that this show is going to be even more amazing and more interesting. So Michael Adzema is an author, activist, teacher, and psychotherapist specializing in primal therapy, breath work, and rebirthing. He is an amazing wise man, inspiring and helping to awake with true spiritual wisdom many people around the globe. And he's an author, so maybe Michael, you can share the web pages so that listeners can follow and check your works.
Sure. Yeah, I have a number of blogs, and I have a number of. I'm on Facebook, and I could be connected with there. I have blogs: The Great Reveal by Silly Mickle and the Planet Mates, Culture War, Class War, Becoming Authentic, Apocalypse No, and Silly Mickle's blog, Things That Want to Be Said. So you can see my work there, but a good place is to catch me on Facebook, Michael Adzema, or Twitter under Silly Mickle.
Beautiful. Yeah. So maybe just we would love to talk about the current interests of yours, the current activity. What have you, done from our previous show to this period of time? What is your activity? What are you, working on this time? So maybe you can share that with our listeners.
Well, I didn't explain too well last time, but I'm putting out a 10-book series called Return to Grace, and I've published 7 of the books in the last year and a half. The most recent one being Funny God, the Tao of Funny God and the Mind's True Liberation. And I have other books. The other books that came out are Culture War, Class War, Apocalypse Emergency, Apocalypse No, Planet Mates, The Great Reveal, Experiences Divinity, and Falls from Grace. And currently I'm working on the book number 8, which is Wounded Deer and Centaurs. It's the necessary hero and the prenatal matrix of human events. So in that one I'm working on that now. It'll be out really soon, within weeks. And in that one I talk about the roots of all evil, basically the roots of all evil. And they go deep, deep, deep into the unconscious and the first experiences of our life. And in knowing this allows us to do something different than we've ever done. And we need to do something different than we've ever done. We need to change radically and fast. So I consider it an important work along with my other works. I'm putting, basically, it sounds like a lot of work, a lot of books, but I'm putting out my research of 45 years, which I was kind of holding back on, perfecting it. I was doing the writing, but now it's all coming out. I remember that when I first took philosophy, one philosopher said, when you're going to be a philosopher or a writer, first have something to say. So I've waited a long time, and now I'm saying what I have to say.
And now you're on a roll and it's just pouring out. And it's great to watch. You also have some 200 notes on Facebook that are not only your words, but rich in pictures, and through that symbolism to combine, that thought process of yours with the words
Yeah.
for the reader or the viewer, or both in that case, which is very important.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned Facebook. I mean, it's because I do provide a lot to my followers and my friends, and there are, I have a lot of my work in the form of notes, and I do illustrate them with graphics, pictures in a way that I can't in actual books. So Facebook's a good place to see my work. Also, everything that I publish is available through Amazon, and most of it's available through bookstores now, or will be shortly, and that's worldwide.
Yeah, amazing, amazing, beautiful. And your work inspires so many people, and us as well. It's not in. So it's very beautiful. So, and even today, the topic of the evening is inspired by your quotations. And today we just wanted to talk about the humor and the attitudes towards our Tao, which in Chinese means way or road. And also that way or road can be expressed as feminine and masculine ways, and the humor which combines them together. And maybe just to start this evening, we can from the quotation which was said by John Lennon once time ago. So he said that when it gets down to having to use violence, then you are playing the system's game. The establishment will irritate you, pull your beard, flick your face to make you fight. Because when they've got you violent, they know how to handle you. The only thing they don't know how to handle is not violence and humor. And you talk about in your books about the humor and how that is important to look into things and to interact with them and to see the other picture of that. So yeah, that was very inspiring.
Yeah, that's a crucial concept. It's a big part of my work, which is that we have to have a different way of approaching our problems than we've ever had. Radical change, as I've said, and a lot of it has to do with humor. I mean, the title of the book, "Funny God," sounds like an odd title. It sounds kind of funny, but it's thoughtfully created. It's Funny God because, as I point out in a number of places in my works, God's essential nature is bliss, love, but also humor. As I put it, silliness is next to godliness. The point I'm making is that all of our life is like a divine peekaboo, where we all have a divine nature, but we forget that coming into the world. And why do we do that? It's because it makes for a more interesting experience. And in this way, divinity is glorified. I express this, especially in Experiences Divinity, but also in the book Funny God. And the point of all that is, why do it? Well, it's like you ever have, a child and you play peekaboo with it, and it's like you hide yourself, and the child wonders where you went, and then you show yourself, and it's like the child may get distressed. It's like, where'd mommy go? Where'd daddy go? And then you show yourself, and it's like, oh, it was wonderful. Oh, it was just a trick. Well, that's the funniness. That's the divine play. That's what we do as divinity. We come into this world, we forget the face of God, we forget our own face, and then when we realize it again in life, if we become awakened, or afterlife, in the no form state, it's a wonderful relief, and we realize that the whole thing was exactly as it was meant to be, and it was a grand experience. Now that's what's humorous. I mean, it's grand, it's joyful, it's humorous. We show that to each other every time we tell a joke. That's why I relate it to funniness and humor and comedy and all that, because every time we tell a joke, somebody is saying something that puts a little bit of tension in the listener. Like, will I understand this? Will I get the joke? I don't know if, will it be a joke that I won't like? And so there's a little apprehension there, and that's the peekaboo part. But the punchline is like, there's relief. It's like, oh, that is funny. I get it now. And that's how we create our comedy. Now, so it's a kind of the same structure as what I'm saying all of life is. You know, we have this apprehension and everything. We don't know how it's going to end, but then we find out how it's going to end, and it was all wonderful. Now we may not realize that till we're after we've left this form state and gone into the no form state, till after we've died.
Yeah.
But yeah, funny God is part of the grand vision, comprehensive vision that I'm presenting, and it also relates to activism, in that we need to change the way we approach problems. We have to save the planet. We have to stop the violence, stop the wars. We have to stop the greed. We have to stop the meanness and we have to help the suffering. And we can't do any of that the way we've been doing it. It's been failing for thousands of years. Now, what we can do is go back and see some cultures where it hasn't, where it hasn't been that way, and we have to go back to before the dawn of civilization. We have to go back to the indigenous cultures, the primal cultures, as I call them, and we get some hints there. They were a lot more easygoing about stuff. They weren't so, they didn't own as much. They were able to, so that there wasn't a lot of greed or thievery or anything like that. There wasn't people in so much in power because you couldn't own a lot. So there wasn't people who had a lot more than other people. So there was a lot more, it was a lot more egalitarian. They were closer to their feelings. They had more humor. They laughed uproariously. They would cry easily. They were much more close to their feelings because they did not have to control themselves for the purpose of some higher up. You know, to fit into society, to make some money or anything, to suck up some higher up who's going to provide then the money to them to live. No, they were able to take care of themselves. They had a much greater nobility. The point I'm making is that we can that gives us a hint about how we can approach activism as well, from this transcendent place where we are more detached, where we do not engage in the conflict, so to speak. We put ourselves into the conflict, but we don't give the opposition the energy. We don't fight back. You know, this is like nonviolence activism. But it's expressed very well. If you show the opposition a way of being that they don't expect. That's what we get back to the John Lennon thing. If you show them something that they don't expect, nonviolence and humor, that throws them off, and they might actually learn something. Their hearts might open up.
Yeah.
So it's about a more natural way of being, but it's also a more transcendent way of being. It's about getting outside of the conflict and coming up with a creative response, not a reactive response. So, you know, this is the prototypical act would be putting a flower, you know, as they did in the 60s, putting a flower in the barrel of a gun, of a rifle or something like that. It's responding with love and humor to violence. And that's my point is that this is the way we have to approach all of our problems these days. The oppositional route doesn't work. It's not work. It just leads to more opposition. You know,
I think that's
kill and be killed.
Something we slowly starting to remember as a group, that resistance is indeed assistance to the cause. And in the way that when you build up an opposition, right, and you grow that body, then that body will just be taken over by the same entity that is doing that, you know. So that's where you're correctly stating that
Yeah.
we have to relearn that to do it in a much different way. And of course, love is the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And as to pick up on what you were saying, if we are going to do it differently, the first thing we have to do, obviously, is not be like the ones we oppose. We cannot adopt their tactics and think that we're progressing. We have to we have to be different than them. We have to say, no matter what it takes, we're not going to be like them. We're going to respond to violence with humor. We're going to respond to it with play, with nonviolence. You know, it's not just, and it's just not all humor and fun. It's like it means standing in the face of evil. It means confronting evil, like that one person who stood in front of a tank in China, in Tiananmen Square. You know, it's responding to real evil by putting your body on the line, taking the chance, because you know it's like it's scary. I mean, that's why people resort to violence and reaction to violence, because they want to protect themselves. It's dangerous. You know, it takes a greater bravery to respond to violence with nonviolence. But that's what we need to be. That's the necessary hero that I'm talking about in some of my works. We have to be different than we've ever been before. It's going to require more. It's going to require different kind of people. And I'm reaching out to those people. Wounded Deer and Centaurs, my next book, is especially directed towards them, because these people have a certain quality that has not been there on the face of the earth really too much until now. So that's the good news. That we are starting to have a psychology, we have a changing in consciousness that's creating people who are more able to be that kind of courageous and that kind of, to make those kind of changes. Because they're closer to their unconscious. There's a lot of reasons. I don't need to go into them now. We were talking about something else here, but I'm just getting off on what this necessary hero is like. The one that would be like John Lennon. John Lennon was a perfect example of somebody who was a necessary hero. He was showing the different way of being. He responded to the war with a sleep in, whatever it was called, a bed in or something, in Toronto. You know, it was like he come up with these creative ways. Abby Hoffman is another one. I mean, come on. So their response to it was like to run a pig for president. Pegasus was his name. You know. They gathered around the Pentagon and they gathered around, circled the Pentagon, and they pretended that they announced to the media that they were going to raise the Pentagon with their collective, you know, meditation or whatever. I mean, this is funny, you know, but it made the point, you know, it focused on the evil, but it didn't participate in it. You know, it raised consciousness.
Yeah, beautiful. But we have a paradox, you know. People are struggling to be adults, you know, to act like everyone else, and don't, you know, like to be seen as childish anymore. So, how is that, you know, in as you know, you are a psychotherapist, and how you see that in our brains, you know, why people act in this way, why they are so scared to be, like you say, silly, easy to weep and laugh, spontaneous and innocent.
Yeah. So that is. How this way of activism does tie into what I was saying about primal beings and nobility of soul, and that kind of easy way of life, that openness to feeling. Okay, that it is related to all that stuff, that childlikeness, and that's a lot of what I'm saying in Wounded Deer and Centaurs is we are starting to have a new kind of human being that is closer to the unconscious and is more, actually, kind of more childlike than we normally have seen in patriarchal cultures. Also more feminine, more matriarchal, if you will. And this kind of matriarchal being, or the more feminine self. Well, like take John Lennon, for example. You know, he went into primal therapy. He expressed his feelings in his art, in his work. You know, the song "Cold Turkey" is him screaming out to his mommy. You know, at one point. You know, it's like, you know, he expressed, he was close to his tears. So he was childlike in a way, and that is the transcendent approach. It's childlike, it's more humorous, it's more easygoing, it's closer to your feelings. And we're taught in a patriarchal society to not be close to our feelings. Why is that? Because the powers that be for thousands of years don't want the lower folks. They want them to do their bidding, and it's not very convenient for people lower down on the scale. It's not convenient to the ones higher up for them to have any feelings. It's not, you know, it's like if you're going to put them to work, you don't want them crying, weeping. You don't want them laughing too much. Just shut the hell up and get to work. and some variation of that has been going through our civilizations for thousands of years, for 4,000 years. Every time there was a higher up, every time there are higher ups, every time there's a pyramid, the ones at the top want the ones below to behave. You see that in societies, civilizations, you see that in the family structure. But we're changing all that. That's the point. And it is about so people have to repress their feelings, and that includes growing up in a Western patriarchal societies means becoming more unfeeling, more of a stone face. You become more robot-like. Then you could be used by the masters. Well, so feeling gets drilled out of us in school, by our parents, and by the culture in general. They mock people who laugh too much or cry too much, or cry publicly. So doing anything that's relative to nature. Women just breastfeeding their kids in public is like, oh, I just saw that yesterday. Somebody on Facebook was posting about some woman was publicly humiliated for breastfeeding her child. It's like nothing to do with the body, nothing to do with nature, nothing to do with more authentic self. We're all told to not be that way and to behave, not be out of line.
Yeah.
And so that involves a child, okay. And I got to put it out there. It's related to spirituality too, because as Christ put it, unless you become as a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And he was pointing to what I'm saying. That it's a kind of a surrender. It's an openness to experience all the things that we're taught to be the opposite of in a patriarchal society.
Yeah, it's definitely what many call that reawakening of the goddess that just has been suppressed for so long. We look in history that goes up and down, comes and goes. And we're due, definitely. We can see that, and that comes with a bunch of old remembered and newly gained baggage. Sexualization is one.
What?
Sexualization is one.
Is that baggage?
Well, temporarily for some people, apparently.
Yes, it is for some people.
It's just all the stuff
for some
comes back.
people. For some people, it's a wonderful awakening. For some people, it's a celebration.
Exactly.
For some people, it's a freedom. I mean, I was in the '60s. Okay, I mean, we're talking about free love and all that. I'm not espousing that necessarily. I mean, but it's certainly less anxiety around sexuality is a good thing. I mean, because after all, Freud's theory was that this anxiety around sexuality was the source of all neuroses. So it's a big deal. Yeah, you're right. And yeah, we are changing all that, and it is related to the rise of the goddess.
Yeah.
I got to point out though, it's not like there's a back and forth between patriarchal and matriarchal. No. We started out matriarchal, meaning not that women ruled, but that women were much more important, and societies revolved around them. They revolved around the processes of birth and they revolved around the processes of birth, the family, nurturing, feminine values like that. And their religions, if their spiritualities were related to processes of death and rebirth. Okay, so this is something that was there in our psyche and in our culture for millions of years, certainly for hundreds of thousands of years that we know anthropologically. We see the matricentric cultures. Even the structure of the family was such that it was like the woman that was the most important. She was where they would live. Okay, so the men would go to the woman's place when they got married, like that. Maybe the where any property or anything that was owned would be passed down through the mother. The
Mm.
children were related more to the mother. So that's what we mean by matriarchal. And they are closer to their feelings, as I was saying. But as we became sedentary, we accumulated things. When we accumulated things, some people had more things than others, and when they had more things, could tell the other people who had less things to do certain things for them. So at the beginning of the accumulation of things, which came with a sedentary life, we started having hierarchies. Somebody has more than another. They become more important than another, more powerful than another. We have the beginnings of power. We have the beginnings of power and the use of power. And then when you have the beginnings of that, then you have the civilizations and you have all the evils that come with civilization. And those are patriarchal cultures. Because in the beginning, when you start having power, you start having men who are stronger, wielding that power. It's all about who can dominate. Men can be more dominating. So that's how you get patriarchal cultures, and that's how women get repressed in patriarchal cultures, because they are closer to that natural way of being. They're closer to their nature, so they don't lose it as much in a patriarchal culture. That's why we have to look to the women to see a better way of being, because they have lost less of it than men have. Men are they're programmed into being kitty drowners and butterfly mashers, as I put it. They're programmed to be mean, to be repressing of all feeling, and spontaneity, sexuality, anything related to nature and authentic beingness.
Yeah, it's interesting how the patriarchy in religion has taken away all the or most of the female powers
Yeah.
by just simply taking them away from them. If you look at Mary, did she have a
Mm-hmm.
mother, or
Mm-hmm.
did she give birth through a birth canal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's how they got the nature out of it. They said, "Well, it couldn't have
yeah,
happened through messy nature." No, we're above that.
and she also never had childhood, She just was
Yeah.
there, ready to
Yeah.
receive the gift.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, what's the name of that book? I forgot. Anyway, there was a very popular book. A very popular author was pointing out how the feminine was taken out of Christianity deliberately, and it was big. The something code, the Da Vinci Code. That's it. And it made a great movie and all that. And there's more books about it. And there is something to what that author is saying. And the fact is that in our Western culture, in our Christianity, the feminine was taken out more than even the Asian cultures, than some of the Asian cultures, and a lot of cultures that are more natural, that are not Christian. The Muslim and the Christian are very patriarchal, but there was more of a feminine or a balance between masculine and feminine energies in some of the other religions. For example, the ones in India, where they show female and male deities, and they espouse some of the values of the female deities, the nurturing,
Hmm.
not the punishment, the non-judgment, rather the unconditional love, rather the sexuality too.
Hmm.
They celebrate that in some versions of Hinduism, the tantric and so on. So they're not as uh, despising of the feminine as we become in Western patriarchal culture. And it's gotten to such an extreme. We're destroying the planet. We're hurting other people. We've become insensitive. That's the ultimate result of the patriarchal culture, is to raise people who are insensitive, who could be used by the machine. And all of that is killing our planet and hurting our people and resulting in violence. And we got to change all that. And we are changing all that. You see,
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a great, actually, what I had mentioned before that I heard it today on a lecture from Leonard Schlein,
Mm-hmm.
who wrote a couple books, and he was talking about the re-emerging of the goddess and how that
Uh-huh.
directly corresponds with the, vision versus right brain versus left brain,
Mm-hmm.
and how that's mirrored through through humanity in these
Mm-hmm.
cycles. So it's a lot to think about there.
Yeah. And it's related to all that. It's related to right brain, left brain being closer to the unconscious as opposed to being more cerebral. It's more integrative of the upper parts of the brain and the lower parts of the brain, of the right brain and the left brain. It's a more natural way of being. It's the way we were before we split off from
Mm,
nature and said no, right brain stuff, the creative, the feeling, all that's bad. We have to just be left brain, be analytical. We
mm-hmm,
have to we have to separate ourselves from nature and manage it. And do something to it rather than be one with it. So
mm-hmm,
yeah, all that applies, and so the promoting, the espousing of more natural right brain kind of thinking and feeling and being is a good. It's a good trend, and it is. It's one of the examples of the rise of the goddess, if you want to put it that way. Yeah, it's good where we're going. We needed to. We've gone so far in the other direction. It just had to happen.
mm-hmm. We're regaining that big picture vision,
Yeah,
rather.
yeah,
Yeah,
regrading the holistic. That's another part of the right brain. It's more holistic rather than analytical.
yeah, and detailed,
You know,
and
it's just exactly detail oriented. Right.
yeah.
It has the grand vision. It's like looking at the forest, not just the trees. Yeah, yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what we need too. I mean, we don't have generalists except for me. In our
Mm,
cultures, we are told to specialize, and that's how you get a job, is by thinking of very, very small parts of the whole and not even ignoring the rest of it. So yeah, that's a big part of the patriarchal way of being too. And the matriarchal one says is Renaissance people. People who are enjoying life and going where their muse or their feelings or their experience takes them, and engaging in life as an adventure the way we did in primal societies. We're told to repress our feelings, repress our adventure, repress our spontaneity, repress our enjoyment of life for the sake of profit for somebody else. And we're getting it all back. We're saying, fuck that shit, to hell with that. Not going to do that. That's crazy. And it is. It's crazy. We're waking up from craziness. A lot of my books are talking about how we are waking up to the way we've been used, to the way we've been misused, rather, you know, to getting back our real self. And it's not just great and wonderful, and we have a greater enjoyment of life, and we have a fuller, authentic beingness. It's more than that. It's necessary for the survival of our species, for us to get that back. Because obviously, to manage to separate ourselves from the environment and manage it this way, in a way just for profit and so on, is what's leading to the desecration of the planet. To its and it to the extinction of planet mates at this horrible, horrible rate. We're going to lose half of them in 40. Half of the species now alive are going to be gone in 40 to 50 years. We are really rapidly approaching the abyss.
mm,
Yeah. Yeah, just like how you said, once in your quotation, like something truly new cannot be foreseen but only discovered. When I think about the foreseen, is like foreseeing for someone, the vision of someone else. But when you discover something, you uncover, you just open
Mm-hmm.
something for yourself, for experience. That was very
Right.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And That's part of that way of being. It's part of the ends and the means dichotomy thing. Okay, that in patriarchal cultures, as I pointed out in the book Funny God, there's the Perseus way and there's the Tao of Funny God. The Perseus way is Perseus in the myth. He's the hero, supposed hero, who kills Medusa. So it's like the typical knight slaying the dragon kind of a thing. You know, basically Perseus sees evil in the world and slays it without looking at it. By the way, looks away from it. Okay, so that's the traditional way of doing things, and in that one you have the world look at it as something that you manage and that you. Anyway, it's like the ends justify the means. So you can kill because it's for a cause.
And
So the
of
ends
course,
justify
blame
the
it
means.
on the victim.
Yes, exactly, and they deserved it. You know, this is why there's the suppression of women and so on, is because there's a lot of blame of women for that's where a lot of the blame of women comes from, I should just say. Anyway, so in what I'm talking about is that this new way of being involves not the not the trying to achieve a particular end. It's about trying to achieve a particular being. You know, because if you have an end or a goal, then you conform your personality to it, and you may do things that you shouldn't do, that are not right. You know, like for example, going to war. We want to win the war, so people kill each other. Well, maybe if we focused on the means and said, no, I'm not going to kill, we wouldn't have wars. It's a simplistic way of looking at it. But in a personal sense, when it comes down to activism in our way of life, it's like we have to live dharmically. And then the result will be something we might not expect. It could be, and it will be always better than what we expect or we can envision ahead of time. Because we cannot know from a point in time early on what would be the good end to come from whatever we're doing. We can only project what we know at that time, and as we continue in time, we will obviously learn more about what is a better end. But that's not to say that we should. It's what I'm saying is that the means don't justify the ends. The ends don't justify the means. That the means justify themselves, and the ends will be discovered.
Yeah, and we're remembering
So it's
that
a focus on it's a focus on a correct way of being rather than a correct goal.
yeah, and we're remembering that we're not working for somebody else, you know, and then by that get access to us more, you know, and start working on us. Working sounds like worshiping a king.
That's right.
So,
That's good. I like that.
you know, if you're working for
Worshiping
yourself,
a king. That's
that's a
good.
better idea.
Damn.
You know? It's somewhere along the way we just were, you know, psychologically or however perceptive, play became work. The
Yeah.
playing, the just playing became work, and that's also in the words ply. You know, ply is old work, use, work with. You know, that's ply. So if you're giving a reply to somebody, you're doing work for that person. You know, he gave you an order or a question or whatever, and you reply. And it's not a play at that point anymore. It's working for somebody else.
Yeah, the continuation, you know, the repeating of same cycle, you know, time after time again.
Yeah,
Keep you in the loop.
I like that being worshiping the king part. That's pretty darn good. I mean, as I point out in Planetmates, well, it all started with the accumulation of things. You know, some people have more stores than others, and they can dominate, and so they could tell the other people what to do. Now, it goes without saying that if somebody else is telling you what to do, it's hardly likely that it's going to be what you want to do. So what we have with civilization is actually work rather than play. We don't do things out of our joy to do it. We don't, like in primitive cultures, they might hunt, they might gather, they might create things. They did a lot less so-called work. They did a lot less things that they had to do for survival. It was like 4 hours a day is the average that was given. They had to work. They had to supposedly work 4 hours a day, but it was things that they wanted to do. It wasn't something repetitive that was required a mindless automaton to do it. Okay, so they had more, quote, play. They enjoyed whatever they were doing, and joy in it. Okay, whereas they did it because they wanted to, and they were motivated to. They did a lot more creative things. Now, in our patriarchal society and civilization, we have somebody else telling us what to do, and the joy's taken out of it. People don't enjoy life anymore. There's no joy. It's like they put their time in, and exchange time is selling your soul. Time is exchanged for the ability to live.
Yeah.
So great, you get to survive by giving up your soul. It's the whole selling the soul to the devil thing. That's why we have that myth in our society of selling the soul to the devil, because each one of us do it when we engage in work.
And
for somebody else.
Not only the soul part, but the actual body part too. You actually, if you're going somewhere to meet somebody to work, then that it's not where your body wants to be, and that's directly reflected in your psyche. An interesting word is a Sanskrit word, body, which is Bodhi.
O-H-I, that's right.
Right. And that's in Buddhism. Wiki says, in Buddhism is the understanding possessed by a Buddha regarding the true nature of things. So it is, your body actually is also the knowing part, is part of this. How some people say, that it's just a vehicle we're in, that we're using, and we're really just those light beings, blah, blah, blah. Well, while we're here, it's definitely functioning that way, that it is part of our soul.
Absolutely. That's a big topic there. That's like probably maybe the central point of Funny God. Outside of the transcendent approach, it's that, as I put it, the book is describing the coming together of heaven and earth. Okay, it's describing the embodiment of the spiritual, the coming together of heaven and earth, and it's prophesizing that, and there's a vision about it. And it's talking about the way we can do that. But the big part of the coming together of heaven and earth is the coming together of the body and the soul. We realize that spirituality is not about separating ourselves from the body, like we've been talking about. The body is where we have the feelings, where we have the birth, where we have the sexuality, where we have the laughter, where we have the crying. It's like it's all in the body. And we're told that if we become separate from that, which is we're told that by the higher ups, become separate from that, and then you're spiritual. No. That's not the way it works. It doesn't work by repressing all of our feelings and then being spiritual. That's becoming numb. This John Wayne approach, this Clint Eastwood approach to spirituality, this Spock kind of spirituality, that's bullshit. The really spiritual people are happy. They enjoy life. They're likely to be more humorous. They're likely to be more likely to cry and to laugh. They're more authentic. The real spirituality is embodied spirituality, as you're pointing out. Yes, it's a coming together of heaven and earth. Our religions have been wrong, and a lot of our spiritualities have been wrong. Some of our New Age stuff has been wrong, but some of it ain't. Some of it's it's really starting to get it right. And the people in the past who got it right, they were burned at the stake. They were called heretics. They were called blasphemers. Oh my God, they might tell you something that you didn't want to hear, so let's kill them. Yeah.
Heaven on earth.
It's the coming together of heaven and earth in so many ways. My book is a lot about the coming together of heaven and earth. As I put it, we walk in the realms of the mythological, the archetypal. We are there at witnesses to the revealing of truth never before heard. This is a time like no other in the history of of humanity. We've never been in such a time where it's either the beginnings of times or the ending of times. We are players in grand stories of the beginnings of times and the endings of times, because we are at that point in history, in history of humanity, where we're either going to die as a species and take everybody else down, take all the other planet mates down with us, or it's going to be an incredible rebirth. We don't know yet, but we are players in epic stories of the beginnings of times and the endings of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It definitely looks like a huge transformation that we just haven't had like this before. It goes
Right.
in some direction where it's hard for us to imagine to grow, and then but then when you try, it works every day a little more.
Yeah.
So there's no limit to it, and gain that consciousness together that could be interesting. I think we're just right in the middle of it.
That's right. But one of the things that helps us is actually the fact that it's necessary. It's like you said, we haven't done it before, and it's not just a choice anymore. People who are aware of what's going on, they realized that it is necessary. The people who are, that's why I call it the necessary hero. The necessary hero. It's a necessary beingness. It's like people who are aware of what's going on. They realize, and who have some kind of awakening, realize that the old ways have never worked. All these thousands, they've never worked, and they're never going to work. So we have to do something different. And it involves a different way of being, and a different way of approaching problems, and a different way of confronting evil.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
But it's being pushed by the necessity of the times. That's why we are at the beginnings of times and at the endings of times.
Yeah,
We are players in epic stories of the beginnings of times and endings of time. If it's the endings of time, they'll be talking about us in the cosmos at some point. We'll have epic stories of how we blew it.
Yeah. It's like a time program, we are working the jobs we don't like, we are with the thoughts in our place, and due to that we have some health problems because body can't correlate with that biological time as well, so we have that dissonance and so on. So
yeah,
we
are not together. We don't have it together. We have been dispersed. We have become many. We have been turned into many little people instead of one integrated person. We do multitasking so we can chop our mind into little tiny bits, just like they want us to become little tiny bits and to just be small people and not have,
divide and rule.
Yeah, to divide us and rule too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh God, that's that left brain thinking, This analytical, it split things into little parts, and that way you focus on the little parts and you miss the whole. You don't see how it all fits together, and that's what they want. They don't want us figuring it out. Why would they?
Because maybe they themselves don't know how it is gonna be in the middle, so they are just scared maybe because of that.
That's true, but they do have an unconscious. They have an unconscious way of being, of going for their profit, okay? And to do that, they have to create people who will not resist them. And they know how to do that. They know how to do it. So they do it unconsciously, whether they don't have to know my psychology in order to know how to do this. Because, I'm learning their psychology. This is what they do. And it's all unconscious. It's true. No, they don't realize consciously what they're doing. They might, get a sliver of it, and they turn it into some kind of rationale for the way they handle people, Don't accept any defiance, and crush all defiance, and make an example of it. Yeah, they might put that in as one of the things that they live by, but it's not a comprehensive idea of like, well, we'll do this to these people because we understand, how to keep them subjugated. Because no, it's like they're doing it collectively. It's not like there's one grand evil. There's like many little evils that add up to the great evil of of oppression.
Yeah, indeed. One must, as Eric Fromm pointed long time ago, to be able to see the insanity in one's culture, and not only in culture, but what's happening inside of us, in each person of us. So,
Right. Yeah, that's what makes things different these days. Is the thing that's necessary to change cultures is something that we've never had. You see, I was saying earlier, it's like there's a necessary hero, and there's people who are changing, but there are also forces at work now that have never been there ever before. Never in any particular culture did you have anybody being able to say, "Hey, this sucks. I'm not going to go along with this. This is ridiculous. You guys are idiots. Are you kidding me?" No. And in every other culture that's ever existed, it was like, you be this way, and if you weren't that way, well, hell, you would die for lack of an idea of a way to be. Seriously, if you were ostracized by your community, you would die just out of pure lack of everything. You would die out of pure loneliness or whatever. So these things were like, not just like, oh, they weren't options. They were, my God, this was like your DNA. You had to act this way. Every culture was, the cultural aspects of it dominated your life and became you. Well, lo and behold, in this society, in this modern times, we know of many ways of being, many cultures, many religions, many ways of doing it. There's many options. So we have, for the first time in the history of the world, we have a species here, us, who gets to choose and has to choose and has to figure out the right way. You see. So what this means is, for the first time, people can analyze and look at their culture as objectively, compare it with other cultures, compare it with their feelings and what they think was right or wrong, and then they can come to the conclusion of, as Eric Fromm says, because they could put society on the couch, as Lloyd DeMoss does in his psychohistory books. That's his phrase: put society on the couch. And we can do that for the first time and look at the culture and say, is the culture crazy? Is it creating crazy people? And yes, if it's leading to suffering, if the culture has certain ways of churning out people that increase the suffering, increase the violence, increase the war, increase the pollution of the planet, that's pretty fucking crazy. That's nuts. So yeah, societies can be crazy for the first time because we can stand outside of them. We can stand outside of them because we can look at other cultures and stand within the framework of a larger idea of what society and culture can be. That's what I say. There's that transcendent approach again. There's that way of being above it. Okay. So yeah, the things that we need to do in order to change, which are happening, is we have to be able to see that there is cultures that are insane, that there is a need to change it. And that means that there is a need to change us. We can see that we're insane. We can see the parts of ourselves that the culture put into us that we realize that's ridiculous. That's resulting in bad relationships, and unhappiness, depression. Is resulting in anxiety. It's resulting in all these things that are not very good for us. We're not enjoying our life. So we realize we have a certain insanity that was put into us, and we want to change that too. So the thing that's necessary is that we need to know about the insanity of culture. We need to know about the insanity of ourselves, and that's possible for the first time in history. First time in the history of the world. The other thing that's necessary in order to have this great change, for us to want to have a great change, is we have to find out that the things that are unknown are not harmful. We have to have a different way of looking at the universe, because in the former societies, in the societies where you had cultures that were just singular, it's the only way you could be, everything outside of that was considered evil. That's where the devils were. Everything outside of it was considered evil. We still have that in Christianity, in fundamentalist Christianity. Everything outside of them is the devil. It's the Illuminati. They're going to come and get us. They're reptiles or something. They're going to come and get us, So they have this idea of good and evil, this Manichaean view of black and white, okay? Well, so we have to, and so that's the unconscious of ourselves and of cultures. And to go into that unconscious, you have to have a feeling that the universe is not evil outside of what you know, but is friendly. How would we know that the unconscious, if we surrender to it, the world, if we surrender to it, I mean the world in a larger sense, surrender to our body, for example, as we did in primal therapy. How do we know that it really is friendly? As Einstein said, the essential question of the universe, that people want to know is the universe friendly? Well, guess what? Along with the fact that we know we have an insane culture, we found out that the universe is friendly. How did we find that out? Well, this is just recent. This is back from the 60s again. People were doing psychedelics. They were going outside of their mind and finding out what was out there. They found out it was friendly. We have people, not just friendly, loving, okay? Oh, some people had bad experiences, but overwhelmingly, people had profound experiences of the love and unity of the universe and of people, and they came back with more feeling of compassion for their, fellow human beings and so on. We have people having near-death experiences where they realize that when you leave the form, you find out that the universe is non-judgmental, that the forces out there, that the beings out there, that the God out there, that God in itself, which is everything, is
Yeah.
is loving. So we found out that not only is it okay to surrender to the things we don't know, to the unconscious, the things that aren't conscious, not only is it okay, but it's a wonderful thing to do. So that's the
Yeah.
two things we need to grow. We need to know that we need to grow. We need to know that things are wrong in our culture and in us. And the other thing we need to know is we don't have to be afraid to do that. We have
Yes.
to find out that in growing, we're not going to go crazy like that's what the religions tell you. Go outside of these, and that's where the devil is. I was
Mm,
brought up Catholic. Like, if you did anything outside of Catholicism, you're going to hell. Okay? Well,
yeah.
that's what they do. So how could you possibly change? How could you do anything other than what you were told? Because you were told it was demonic, it was hell, it was evil. So we had to find out that the universe was friendly, unlike what we were taught.
Yeah, indeed. And everything is so close, everything is in our palm, even in the word, if we look insanity, it's insanity or sanity in. So it's everything connected, everything, inside. So it's not so hard to change everything. We just have to look inside of us to turn that wheel again, to make it spinning in another direction.
The
Yeah.
source of it certainly is in the individuals changing themselves, working on themselves. That is the big change. It's true. The insanity has to be attacked first of all inside you. You cannot attack the insanity of the culture if you're fucked up yourself. How would you know what the insanity of the culture is? You could be out there saying, "Oh yeah, I'm for guns," and that's your way of changing the world is because you think that people should have guns and that's how they can fight the evil in the world. Well, no, if you have to look at yourself and realize that's your violence coming out. That's your wanting to punish people, you know. So you have to change yourself before you could even know what things to tackle. You're gonna get the wrong thing if you're not looking inside. That's where we get our ideas of what should be changed, is by looking inside. By changing ourselves, we realize what the crazy things in our society, and therefore then we can act on them, as we talked about in the last show. That this awareness leads to action by necessity, if you have enough of it. Because when you know, you realize what's missing out there, and you're naturally you want to 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 you want what's missing and what is necessary that's missing, and you're impelled to do that. So it leads to action. Yes.
Maybe just let's talk now about the solar and lunar theologies, how you express
Oh
them
boy.
in your book. It's very, very interesting. And, we have solar and lunar theologies like male and female energies, east, west, heaven, hell, black and white, and everything between them. And also we see that our culture likes to demonize the lunar energies, like the moon I see in G, like, in general, and it likes more to withhold the sun energies instead. So, and this belief of moon darkness is so deep in our culture and embedded in our psyche that now it really affects us usually more in negative way than positive. Don't matter that in nature, maybe it's not like that all the time. It's only one spectrum of the whole rainbow of the energy. So what do you think about that? What can you share here?
Yeah. Yes, solar and lunar theologies. There are two basic ways of looking at the universe, and interacting with it. And then one is, like I was saying earlier, the Perseus way, which is you chop away at you see evil in the world, and you chop away at it. I was just describing that sort of activism there. If you haven't looked inside yourself, you're gonna find evil in the world. The evil that's in you, you're going to see in the world, and you're going to think you have to do something about it. Okay, so solar way is that Perseus way of slashing away at the things out there in the world, and you don't look at them. You don't look at them. You don't look inside yourself. It benefits you to be blinded. It benefits you to be like the powers that be want you to be, ignorant, not noticing what you're doing, not noticing the consequences of your actions. Then you could be the good soldier, killing in wars, dropping bombs, and so on, because you don't know the consequences of what you're doing. So that's the Perseus way. I mean, that's the solar way. And there are solar theologies that take that kind of managerial, that kind of dominating way of looking at the world into the psyche. And then you have positive thinking. Don't you dare. One book says, you can't have the luxury of a negative thought. Wow! That's the title of the book. You can't have the luxury of a negative thought. Well, I'm Catholic. That scared the shit out of me. It's like, what happens if you have a negative thought? What's gonna happen to me? My God, So it's like, wow, I wouldn't buy that book. That's a bad daddy. My God, get out of here. Fuck you. I'm going to have a negative thought then, just to spite you, It's like, anyway, so there's this positive thinking going on, It's the way these solar theologies, they operate. It's like, don't, like, if you, like I was taught in Catholicism, if you even think something bad, it's as bad as if you did it. Holy shit! Is that going to keep us scared as crap, all the time? I mean, it's not even okay if you don't do bad. It's like you can't even think it. So of course you're going to think it. So then you have to deny that you thought it. So you have to lie. So it's like it's this compounding of fucking evil. Yeah, all in terms of like trying to be good. So you can't help but be fake.
Yeah.
So these are the solar theologies. They're always hacking away at the things that they see as evil instead of letting themselves look at it. Okay. So then on the other hand, you have the lunar theologies that look at the things that we say are evil. Yeah, they get criticized for being more in the body. They're more sexual. Like, all the things that the solar theologies demonize. They're more feminine. That's the two of the things that the solar theologies demonize are women and sexuality. Because then they link the two, and then they burn witches at the stake, and so on and so forth. So the lunar theologies, though, they have an openness to the mystery of life, which includes the so-called negative experiences of like openness to their feelings, or openness to they learn from life rather than impose their thoughts upon it and slash away at all the things that they don't like. No, they learn from life. They learn through their experience. So the one imposes a particular idea on the world, and the other one gets their revelations from the world. You see, there's two different ways of being, and there are two theologies that those are the two basic theologies. If you can look at all theologies, and the one is the lunar theology, is a more shamanistic one, where you have these experiences, you learn from them. You might do a walkabout, say, you might have a vision quest. You're learning from experience. Whereas the solar theology, they say, okay, you can't have any negative thoughts. So it's not just the theologies; it's these ways of being, the positive thinking, these techniques, and they come up in the most unlikely places. The New Age thought, it's like you can't have a negative thought, and you can manifest whatever the hell you want just by thinking about it. It's like, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of goddamn thinking, And it's like you're deciding ahead of time what you want. It's like that's the same old solar theology. It's no coincidence that people who are solar theology who like those kind of things would be very patriarchal people, very patriarchal conservative people like Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon in my own lifetime. My God, they espoused positive thinking, and look how great that was, for them. I mean, they ruined us,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know. Do you want me to say anything more about the lunar theologies or solar or anything?
Yeah, it's very interesting, how we have lunar theologies like moon, and you also talked about the Medusa in your book, and how you can't look at her face because she will turn you into stone. So the same is about the moon. You can't see the dark side of the moon because because of the rotation of planet we can't see that. So again, moon theologies, we can see the face, we can see the dark side of the thing. So
yeah. That's another way that lunar theologies are lunar. Why would we call them lunar? Well, because they acknowledge that we don't know everything. They acknowledge that life is about learning. So they realize that we live in a kind of a darkness in our life, and that there is truth, but it's reflected truth. It's like that's what I was talking about. It's like about learning through your experience, about discovering your wisdom. Whereas solar theologies, they assume they know. They have the Bible or something like that. And then, so it's like they know where the light is and where the darkness is. And of course, the light is where they're focusing, and the darkness is everything outside of that. Okay? And everybody outside of it. That's why it's a source of, racism and misogyny and homophobia and all that. Because everybody not like them is in the darkness and therefore needs to be killed. Killed off. That's why they can have wars too. But in the lunar theologies, it's about you can't be that sure. You don't want to go killing because, you might it might be the wrong thing. Whereas in solar theologies, yeah, you can kill. Somebody told you to kill. It's all right then. They must know. It's all known. You see. So lunar theologies, it's less like they're less likely to do something like that. They're more into their body. They're more likely to learn from sexuality, from experience of nature, from experience of birth and nursing and all the things that are part of our biological existence. Whereas the solar theologies say, no, the body's bad, as part of that darkness again, So there are two different ways of looking at things. And also in the lunar theologies, you don't have positive thinking. You don't want freaking positive thinking. You have positive being. You want to be positive. You want to act positively, but it's not like it's like some ironclad law that you have to live by, or else hell will happen or something. No, you want to live positively, but in living positively, you accept the darkness. That's why it's lunar also, because you accept looking at things in the other way too. Looking at things from the unconscious, the way you're not used to looking at them. You learn from life by looking at the different things, the seemingly light and dark. Then you can know better the proper thing to do. You just know naturally the proper thing to do.
Yeah. I liked your quotation when you said that women must be self-effacing, you see, and like children sin but not hurt. So for me, it talks like a metaphor, since women are, intuition and unconscious. It must be seen, not heard, as in electricity world of duality. because in our society everything is reversed and taken into many layers of understanding. Because like Hurt, we have the male, aspect, which is Hurt, which is force, which is action, electricity. It produces noise, and when on the other side, women are like more intuition, like more visions, like more seeing and feeling that sensitivity. So people are
Right.
understanding that women in our society is only for beauty, that fragile, beautiful thing in the family. But what we have to look, in the deeper sides, that it's talking about not the beauty of the body, but the beauty of the visions and the consciousness it can bring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not shown. They hide it from us. They blur out a nipple, for example, and by that, that's the received perception right there that you get. Then you think that it's bad. Before you would never have done that. For you.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. We have our natural self that looks at the world in an innocent way. We've got to regain it in an innocent way. It's like you don't have it divided into good and evil like that.
Yeah.
It's like that's an example of that lunar theology I was just talking about. Like what is lunar theology? You don't have somebody telling you a nipple's bad, therefore it's evil, therefore you can't look at it. In a solar theology you would. In lunar theology you don't have that, and you have it's a nipple, and the seemingly bad thing is allowed in, and you say, well, no, it's just natural.
Yeah. And that's manifesting, these female activists and stuff. They understand that exactly, and they just show it. They just go out and show it, and
That's right.
that's that other part. But
What
that's the
it
visual
is.
part. But the inner part and the soul part of that divine feminine, gotta watch out too. For example, liberation through the pill. That is actually not good in my opinion, because it steals the responsibility from her, and she forgets to feel her own cycle. Uh, you know, some women know when they're fertile and when they're not. Uh, but nowadays you run and measure temperature, because we've forgotten that, and you're on the pill and shouldn't have that and all this stuff. It's
Yeah, I don't know where I come down on that one. I mean, I kind of agree with you, but kind of also see it another way too. Yeah, that's oh man. I think women should should make that an individual decision.
oh,
Because
absolutely.
I could see it both ways. I mean, because I really don't. I think that we shouldn't bring children into the world right now. I mean, very few, if any. I mean, because we got too many people on the planet, and we're going to all die. So why bring them into this world? No, I also, as I said, I pointed out in the book, one of the act outs of being alive is to have a child rather than to grow or to we continually act out our need to grow, to become a fully human being. We act it out. We look for ourselves in other things and other people. So when we're looking in a romantic relationship, or we're looking for a wife or husband, or just a partner, we're looking for really what's inside of ourselves that we don't have. For the man is looking for his anima, he's looking for his feminine side, which he was told he can't really have. So he's trying to unite with it, and the men and the women. The opposite of that, they're looking for the man. They were told they can't be strong. They were told they can't be assertive. They can't be. They're looking for the knight in shining armor to come in and be strong and be unfeeling and take care of things, or and just be this strong and the assertive that they can't be. They were told that they can't be. So we keep looking for the things we need inside of ourselves, outside of ourselves. And that's why we're always disappointed. So when they end up being different than what we expected, we go to another relationship. We're constantly looking one after another. It's like people don't get the point. They do not look inside. And then at a certain point, say they get married, Okay, they get married, and then they realize, wow, they didn't get what they needed. Of course they're not going to get what they needed. What they needed was on the inside. You can't have it on the outside and feel integrated and full. So what did they do then? Rather than be reborn, rather than be authentic and go through that death rebirth process, be reborn into, continually reborn into a more authentic human being, is rather than be reborn, they have children. They act it out. So a lot of the overpopulation of the globe is the fact that people have been cut off from themselves. I told you, it goes all the way back to the beginnings of civilization. So people were cut off from, hey, by the way, they didn't have as many children in those days. It's funny how in the Old Testament they say, go forth and multiply. Well, that really worked out well. No, it's like, yeah, it says go forth and multiply. But they didn't go forth and multiply in primal cultures. They'd have a baby about every 4 years, which is like perfect biologically, because that was about the point where the older child would be ready to be, didn't need as much attention, could actually be weaned really and everything like that. What I'm saying is that yes, we procreate and all that, but we're procreating in this day and age out of needs, out of the fact that we are deficient in a way. We are cut off from ourselves, so we use children, and that's the point. Children should not be used. They should be brought into the world because of love, and not because there's something wrong or something missing in that person's personality that they're trying to get through having a child. So rather than be reborn ourselves, we give birth. And then we wonder why we're disappointed. Well, they grow up and everything like that, and we feel happy at times, everything like that. And then at a certain point, they grow up, and then, my God, they're not coming around anymore. Damn them. They're so ungrateful. So they don't become the little minions, the little mini-me's that we want. So, yeah, so then we end up in the latter part of our life being unhappy and pissed off at our kids. Don't you just love my depiction of the human life cycle?
Yeah, nice
You
angle.
gotta have a little humor when you do this, silliness is next to godliness too, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you don't believe me? Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Was that a little bit of a rant or something? Oh my God.
Yeah.
You get all this wisdom in my books. Just read them. It's all there, folks.
Right.
Oh God. Oh yeah.
Here's a Nietzsche quote. God is a comedian performing in front of an audience that is too frightened to laugh.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. There you go.
Boils it down.
Yes, that's perfect. As that describes patriarchal. That's what describes this. People in solar theologies. Not lunar theologies, not primal people.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, that's the whole point about solar theologies is they keep you in fear. Like my book, Finding God, is pointing out, like in the third part of it, that the last sentence of the book is, existence is fun. The point I'm making is we think it's drudgery. We think that there's good and evil, and we better be careful that we don't go into the darkness, And it's like we have to be so strict with ourselves. We have to be so disciplined with ourselves. We can't just let go. Let go, let God, let go. Find out what we feel. Let go into our feelings. We don't do that. So what I'm saying is, in my book, Funny God, I point out towards the end, in part 3, I show how reality is a funny God, that we are the all that is, and that it's all a divine comedy, and that the waking up means we realize there's nothing to be afraid of. There never was. But even the fear we had was part of the fun. Okay, so yeah, we are in patriarchal cultures. We're told that to be in fear, you know, that telling a joke to an audience that's afraid to laugh. Yeah, God forbid.
Yeah.
But in other theologies, we can have that kind of enjoyment of life. We can laugh more easily. We can actually look at reality, and if we think we're going to a happy hunting ground or something like that, you know, we're not so damn afraid in life, you know.
Yeah. Guess it takes
You
courage
know,
to laugh.
I don't know. I mean, it takes not being screwed over. I mean, if you were brought up in a culture that didn't tell you that you were going to go to hell, or didn't have this idea of hell, as I was pointing out in the book, at Funny God, the idea of hell came in with the idea of hell. The idea of hell came in with civilization. You know, the idea that hell was the worst place. There are ideas out there, in some cultures that actually. Dying, and that the no form state is a more expanded awareness. It's a better state, But in our culture, we're told, in the beginning with civilization, we started to depict the other side, or the no form state, as being below the human existence. So therefore, we better hold on to our life for all it's worth, and mortality becomes also all important, because outside of this life, again, the universe is not friendly. There's hell. There's a grayness there. Even if it's not Christianity, they describe the other side as being somehow not as good. People eat clay and stuff like that. That was in the Gilgamesh tale. So. So it keeps people afraid.
Yeah.
We have cultures where it's not that way, where actually the other side is a more awakened state. And what I'm trying to say is they got it right. And how do I know they got it right? Very simple. Bottom line, I got it. You ready for this one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Doesn't all religions say God is good?
Yes.
I mean, if God is evil, then that would make him Satan, right? So God's the good one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if God's good, how can you have this idea that life is just this drudgery? How can you have this? How could it be possible for a good God to create a place where you die, where you live forever? You can never die, and you're there for an eternity, suffering every minute. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of mind fuck that they put on people in patriarchal cultures to keep them in line. Now, you don't get that in primal cultures. So what I'm saying is, I know I'm right, because if they're right about God is good, then they're wrong about this other part. Now we have to decide which is true. The idea that really the universe is not friendly, and there really is a hell, and if we don't hang on to this state of existence, we're going to go to a place where we're going to live forever in agony, and that's reality? No, I wouldn't choose that. Or we can believe that God is good and go with that idea, that really we can let go into our experience, into our life, and we can discover, and God will lead us and guide us and to better places, and so on. Well, guess what? I tried number 2. And it worked. So I believe that. I don't believe the universe is not friendly. I don't believe in demons, hell, so on and so forth, because I tried out the idea that God might be good. And guess what I found out? I found out it was, damn it. I found out I got help, and I'm not talking Christian God or in Jesus or anything like that. I'm talking about the universe, the all that is. I just surrender to the reality, to the all that is, to what's going to happen. Throw myself into life,
Yeah.
And I discovered that always am I being helped along. Oh my God, do I have stories? It's like I feel like I'm surrounded all the time by by helpful entities. I wouldn't call them entities, helpful energies or helpful feelings, helpful beings. Just all that is helpful. And that's what we've forgotten. In all that fear and everything, we've forgotten that, man, life is a trip. It's good. Existence is fun. And the more we know that, the less fear we have that it's not fun, or that that we're in danger. We better be careful. Better not screw up. And the less we have of that stuff, the more joy we can have in light. And the more we realize, the more we're able to be open to all of the helpful energy that the universe is, to what I call God.
Yeah, indeed.
What's God? God is the all that is. And how do I know it's God? It's also helpful. It's also helpful. I mean, it could be just random. It could be just random. A universe could be the all that is, but no, the all that is also helpful. So that makes him kind of like a God. The God is good. Didn't the word God come from good, or good, come from God or something like that? Anyway, God is good.
Yeah.
And we find that out through experience. It's scientific. Okay, we could do an experiment, like you do an experiment to find out what the truth is in science, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this experiment is this. Try out the idea that God is good. Live your life as if you surrender to to things as they are. That you don't fight them. You don't try and manage it so much. That you let yourself have your feelings. Try out that idea, and I guarantee, over and over again, and I've heard this is the case, and it's the case for me, you find out that God is really good. God is good, and that you're helped. So therefore, science, experiments done, been proven that God is good.
Yeah. There is no devil. There is only fear of devil. If you haven't met devil, you haven't lived. Because devil, from the other part of the word, if we will go from the ending of the world, we will have lived. So you have to live to face devil, and you have to face devil to be able to live. So.
The devil meaning what?
Like, if we will have the word devil, and we will read devil word from the other part of from the ending of the world, we will have lived. So just two words combined into one. So
I'm not sure I get that. I look at the word devil and see it as evil. Evil is the evil of the world. And like I was saying, in lunar theologies, we look at evil. We don't like the Perseus myth, solar theologies, where they don't look at what they do. They don't look at the consequences of their action. And this is in a myth where Perseus slays Medusa, slices off her head without looking at her. Whereas can't learn from the experience. All right, and might not have done it if he looked at her. Maybe she wasn't really hideous. Maybe he was just told she was hideous. See, this is the thing. This is why it goes against authority. I mean, it goes with authority for solar theologies, but it goes against authority to actually look at reality. You might find out that what they're telling you is wrong. In lunar theologies, that's exactly what you do. You look at the evil of the world, and and it is more moral, because in looking at evil, this is one of those trust things that I'm saying, trust in the universe and God is good and all that. The fact of the matter is, the fact of the matter is that when people look at evil, the vast majority of them, they want to stop that evil. They want to stop suffering. Our basic nature is good, as well as the universe being good. It's only those fucked up ideas of the solar theology and everything, which tell you don't look and don't learn, that have you thinking that you really have that evil inside of you too. No, if you look at somebody who's suffering, if you really looked, you're going to want to help that person. If you see somebody being raped or murdered or something like that, you're going to want to stop it. I guarantee the vast majority of people would do that. And then you find out that, hey, your basic nature really is good. And you didn't need no commandment, thou shalt not kill, or help thy neighbor or anything like that. No, it's what we naturally feel. So when we surrender to our feelings, we become a better person. and we can surrender to it. That's part of that is looking at reality the way it is, because what we feel is a reaction to the reality as a whole. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. Now how do we do that? You know, in a practical approach, we got to reconnect with our body. We got to get off our
Right.
meds, and we got to turn the TV off, because
Right.
that's exactly what they get you. With the meds, they get you on your body, and with
That's
the
right.
TV, they get you. You know, that's hypnosis. That's
Yeah.
alpha and theta waves.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you,
Theta waves. Yeah.
yeah, which is pretty much hypnosis.
Yeah.
And if you read a book, or
Yeah.
read anything, it's beta waves, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you're more on yourself, and you imagine stuff,
Oh God,
and are
those are
not
good points. Yeah.
hypnotized. So
Right.
that's what I meant with meds before. We are then able to connect to our cycles, our natural cycles, and the woman even more so, or more so direct, because she's so connected to the moon cycles. You know,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I meant. And so by regaining that body, we also then can regain our soul and mind and spirit, or whatever you want to
Exactly.
call all these things.
That's right. No, those are very practical ways to do it. And you're right. You know, it's these things have evolved. They've been developed, and they are tools of the powers that be to keep people controlled. You know, it's like it's. I don't think it's so bad that you're being affected by alpha and theta activity in your brain, because that could be a wonderful thing. But it's what they put in there in those states. You're in a very susceptible state. It's what they put in there. I mean, it's violence. They wonder why kids are more violent. Come on. I see thousands of murders by the time they're like, 6 or 7. I forget what it is. It's like unbelievable. I mean, if you look at any show, I just saw Jupiter Rising. Oh my God, it was nothing but fighting. Unfucking believable. I got sick of it. That's what they put into you. And you're right. You're in a very susceptible state, very vulnerable place where you can, I'm surprised there's not more violence in this culture, but then there is a lot of violence. We have so many murders and so on.
Yeah.
More so than. Well, I'm talking about America. How you're living in Lithuania, so it doesn't apply. But in America, we get it really bad. We brought up with the TV, and books, like you say, it's so those are some bad tendencies in the world, but we can reverse them,
Yeah. Indeed.
What was the other one? Turn off your TV, and what was the other one?
And get off the meds.
Yeah.
Whatever meds that is, because
Oh
they
my
just alter
God.
your body chemistry, and they obviously also alter, in a lot of cases, how we behave and how we perceive,
Oh
and
yeah.
that whole thing. So there you see the direct connection, that then your, what we call heaven, is when the earth is tainted, heaven is also weird. You
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So clean your body up, and then you can bring down heaven again to earth, because it's all clean.
I got to tell you, to support you on that, I saw a study a few years ago. For one thing, what like you're sprinkling antidepressants all over Western culture here. I mean, it's like there's so many people on them. It's like for any problem, you don't go to a psychotherapist anymore. Counselor, you get a med for it. You go to a psychiatrist, you get a med. And there's so many antidepressants. I've been giving it to everybody. I see a lot of my friends on it. A lot of them are struggling with it. Anyway, what it does is it makes your thoughts go down a particular path, and not look to the left or the right too much. Doesn't that sound like something that it kind of it stays in a rut, and you can't think widely, and doesn't that sound like what the solar theologies would want to do to people? The powers that be would want to do to people, keep them controlled, not having them know too much or think too hard. Fact of the matter is that they did a study where about the political views, and they found out that the people who were on Prozac were more likely to end up conservative. They were more apathetic about other people's suffering and everything. Remember I said that our natural self cares about other people? Our natural self is really loving. Our natural self is beautiful. If we get it back, it's wonderful. It's enjoyable and it's more moral, But anyway, when they give these people the Prozac, for example, they were more, they lacked compassion, they lacked empathy, they're more likely to be rude. They ended up being more conservative in their beliefs because they didn't really care about the suffering of others, Oh my God, it's like I was thinking, yeah, perfect drug for the powers that be.
That's that stand down command, and that's the reason why there's not so much violence. And I think in the US, some 70-something% of the world's that kind of Prozac stuff group of medication is taken in the States. So it's a very large number. So that could explain that, that stand down command. Either fear, or you can't even, you're lethargic, or stand down command.
Yeah, it's very helpful to them. What's also amazing is how much how much resistance there is. We've seen a lot of resistance in recent years in this country, in America, all around the world. And although you're probably considering what we're facing, it probably should be more. I'm sure there's a lot less activism than there would be if people weren't being drugged up on antidepressants a lot and so on. I think you're right there. Stand down command, yeah.
Yeah. Also loved one of your quotation. You said like, free your mind and your ass will follow. So it's all about the intentions we want to make, and about our mind and heart uniting together.
Yeah. We don't have a problem with activism. We don't have a problem with morality. If we allow ourselves to be our authentic self, because our authentic self is loving and moral. And fun.
Yeah.
And sexual. And all the good stuff, Joyful. But laughing and crying, it's emotional. Our authentic self does not choose evil. It just doesn't. It doesn't have to be told to. It doesn't need a 10 Commandments to do that. So the point I'm making is not only is it more moral, but it's also more of an activist. Free your mind and your ass will follow. Yeah, because when you free your mind, when you become your more authentic self, you have compassion for the suffering of others. And when you have compassion for the suffering of others, you can't help but respond to it. That's another thing that's part of our authentic self. Big news. We don't have to be told, love your neighbor. We don't have to be told to help our neighbor. You don't have to be told about the what's the name of that? Never mind. We don't have to be told to do good because we feel like doing good.
Yeah.
We have to. In fact, we're compelled to. We have to. Humans are compelled to complete something that's where there's something missing. We have that urge, and if it's somebody suffering and there's something that you could do to help them, we have that urge to do that, and it's very strong. So, but our natural self has a natural morality. So the other thing I point out in the book, Funny God, there's a natural morality that's inherent in human beings. It goes along with the idea that God is good. God is good, and there's a natural morality, and what's evil is our separation from all that, which makes us think differently, which has us project the evil on ourselves off into the universe. So that's not just in the universe where we say, oh, there's Satan and hell, but there's also into other cultures. where we say, they're going to do something or other to us, and we have to go to war with them. And all their people are subhumans, which is how they get people to go to war. They convince the society, and they convince the soldiers that the people below, the people they're fighting are subhuman, like they did in Vietnam. So they were, what were they, gooks? Called them gooks. They always call them something derogatory, and so that they can kill them. Anyway, we project that evil that's in us out into the world because we are separated from our natural morality.
And I guess it doesn't matter where you start cleaning up, your mind first or your body. The other one has to follow naturally.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
If you do it long enough, if you do it well enough, you're persistent and courageous and self-sure enough.
Yeah. Yeah, there are lots of ways to grow, though. There are lots of ways to face what's inside of oneself, and to look at it. I've got my particular ways. That's why I became a psychotherapist, to help other people do it too. And I went through it myself for years, looking inside. But it just as soon as you take the action to start looking inside, you find ways. You might do journaling. There's thousands of ways, and it's all about. It's not positive thinking. That's the opposite of it. It's about finding out who you are. And when you find out who you are, you find out you're a better person than you thought you were. And that's the good news. Oh, yeah, you find out lots of negatives about yourself, but overall, you find out the good things about yourself. Let me point out something. This is just relevant, if you don't mind. Psychologically speaking, there was a study that was done. I saw it in 1969. The difference between positive thinking and positive regard. And this is very relevant right here. Self-esteem and self-regard. That's what it was. So self-esteem is something where you think you tell yourself you're good, by blocking out all the negatives about yourself. So it's something that has to be defended, So you got people with high self-esteem. Well, that might just mean that they could be psychopaths because they think that they're just great, because they're blocking out all their negatives. That's what's wrong with all that self-esteem stuff, It's not self-esteem that people need. They need high self-regard. Self-regard, they discovered that there were people who were very positive about themselves, but what they didn't block out the negative parts about themselves. They understood they had problems. They understood that they had negatives, that they had things to work on. But overall, they also were able to see they're good. They're good. And as a whole, they felt very positive about themselves. So that was called positive self-regard. And those differences, again, are showing up the differences I'm talking about. There are two ways to go about your psyche, One is to look inside, and the other one is to not. And if you're not, you're going to be on the side of people who are creating evil, not reducing it. Sad to say. Sad to say, solar theologies create that, and that's why we got the problems, I think. I mean, we got the problems. We got solar theologies telling us that we're not the body, we're not nature. So what are we doing? We're despoiling nature. Because we think that the heaven that we're going to go to is not going to be anything that has to do with this earth or with nature. It's going to be some airy fairy kind of thing in clouds or something. It doesn't have anything to do with the physical world. Well, I think that there is a no form state, which is beyond the physical, but still, I think that the earth and all material, all matter, includes that. It's the all that is, We see physical matter because we're looking at the world a particular way, the way humans do. But we won't at a certain point. I don't know. That was really going off there.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly starting. It's certainly we're recollecting and coming together and sharing things like we do now. And you're doing a great job in your department in order to put people inform people. And yeah, we just got to keep going and spread the love, I would say.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I spread the love and reduce the fear. I think one person said in response to one of my posts recently, your posts always, they do something and they lessen fear, and that's what I'm all about.
That's
I
nice.
guess you could say I had so much fear in my life that I had to go off into reality to find out how much was warranted. I really did. That's one of the chapters in my book too. I had so much fear growing up because so much stupid shit was drilled into me that made me think, well, people were crazy and the universe was crazy. And if it's crazy, I wanted to find out. But if it wasn't crazy, I wanted to find that out too. So I went off into my life has been about going off into reality, and into myself, and into the culture, and into society, where I got to look to see just how much evil really existed, how much of it was warranted, all of our fear. And lo and behold, I found out our fear was not warranted at all. That everything was a lot better than we had thought and been told. Now, that was my great realization. And I convey that in my works. My God, you don't have to believe that. And people go, and I explain why. And people go, and they feel a letting go of some of their fear. They feel that they're in a safer, more comfortable, happier place. Well, if I can do that, you can see why I want to be a writer. I mean, that's what I did as a psychotherapist, But if I could reach a lot more people as a writer, that's why I became a writer, to connect with more people. And that's it. My God, if I can do just a little bit of that, you can see why I'm motivated. Because again, the natural self sees a need and wants to fill it. We have a natural morality, which is really good,
Wonderful. I think that's a perfect closing statement. Thank you so much for your work. Like you pumping out book after book right now. We can't wait to see the new one come out the press.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll reconnect in the future, Michael.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I hope I didn't dominate too much. I mean, Jesus, I did most of the talking.
No, it was amazing.
That's what it's here for, spread the message.
I didn't want to blow you away, man,
Oh, we take that challenge any Sunday.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I love you guys. I love you guys.
Love you
Thanks for
too,
having me
Michael.
on.
Okay. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
I know you are the light that will shine, shine, shine on your mind, mind. Yeah, so bright, 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 that will shine, 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 bright, 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 bright on your mind, mind. Yeah, so bright, bright.